Hi folks, again a long weekend here in Germany, and for 4 days I'm cycling with my daughter, the smaller one, by bicycle on the Main River. We start in Aschaffensburg and we go in the direction of Bamberg. I'm not sure how far we go, we plan from day to day depending also on the weather and how our mood is. To stay tuned, you'll find out pretty soon in the movie where the beautiful place behind me is, and now let's go. Just arrived at the Aschaffensburg train station. Now we go to the hotel and we have a very chilled evening before tomorrow started to cycle. I'm here right on the platform. My daughter is here behind. Checked in the hotel Ibis, just close to the station, and now we take a quick walk in the center, dinner, and then we get ready for tomorrow and start cycling. Here we are ready to go. We are in front of the hotel in Aschaffensburg, the Ibis. We are gonna go along the river now. We're gonna look at the city very quickly. Here's the usual setup. Seat for my girl, the 2 bags on the back, and that's all. Let's go. Here's the courtyard of the castle of Aschaffensburg, which is the most known view of the city. And if you ever Google Aschaffensburg, which you could, but you probably won't, the picture you would see is the view from across the river of the castle back there. And now I leave Aschaffensburg. I will not see the castle, and also something which should be pretty cool. It's called Pompeianum. Ludwig I, the king of Bavaria, built it about 200 years ago. It's a replica of a house in Pompeii. But today there is going to be rain in the mid-afternoon, so I don't want to spend too much time here. I want to ride as long as I can, so now we go in direction of Würzburg. Aschaffensburg is about 25 kilometers behind, and Miltenberg about 16 ahead. And there's this very nice part with all the vineyards on the slopes here. Now we pass through Klingenberg, which is a very pretty small town with half-timbered houses and vineyards all around. Got to the pretty town of Miltenberg, where we're gonna have a lunch break and also walk around a little bit. There was supposed to be also a little bit of rain this morning. We were saved. Lunch at the Greek restaurant Thessaloniki, right in the waterfront here. After a poor choice of restaurant, the Greek restaurant was really not that great. We walked through the village here, Miltenberg, and there is a big statement here from a brewery. Some exceptionally beautiful corners in this village, Miltenberg. I also recognize it. We came I think 4 or 5 years ago with my wife and the kids when they were smaller, cycling. We now leave beautiful Miltenberg and we continue along the Main River, going upstream. Along the river there is this fascinating structure somehow. I don't know if it is abandoned. If you look for how rusty it is, but there are tire signs here in the lot just in front of the structure. I'm not sure. I need to understand a bit what it is for. Along the river, they always give a bit of a bucolic feeling to the whole scene here. Nice outfits nowadays. Got to Wertheim on the Main, always on this river. There is a drizzle since about 1 hour. We stop anyway here to visit the village and maybe the castle to get some food, and then maybe it's gonna be raining pretty strong and we will stop here. We are taking a break in Wertheim. It was also raining a bit, now it stopped, but I think it will start again. And also Wertheim is a little bit of a jewel. the village of Homburg, which is another of these pretty villages with red bricks, and also surrounded by these very aesthetic vineyards. The sky is getting pretty dark. Let's see if we make it to any of the major villages here on the route before it starts pouring down. Started raining about 6 kilometers to one of the larger villages which has an hotel. I covered well my girl. I'm not sure, maybe we stop at the next village. Maybe if it holds a little bit longer, we do still 1 hour of cycling. We got to the pretty rear town of Markt Heidenfeld. I think we're gonna stop here for a day. There's a very nice hotel, 4 stars with restaurant noticed by Michelin, so let's go there. Here we got to the Hotel Anke in Markt Heidenfeld, where we stop for the night. There's a funny scene, so she's there like, yeah, we're gonna do a favorable price to you, 147. I said, but on the website it's 142. So okay, we do 142. But it should be a nice hotel with a nice restaurant. It started second day in Markt Heidenfeld. This is the square, and we were in the hotel here. The hotel was overpriced and overrated. It was a 4-star, 142 euro for a double room with breakfast. Way too much for what it was, but the dinner was really excellent. And now we go along the Main, we continue. I hope to get to Würzburg at a good time in the early afternoon so that we have time to visit all the different things that are there. Got to Lohr Main, famous for the castle and the story of Snow White, and the roads are also again here picture perfect. They look like painted. Here's the castle of Lohr Main, famous for this. The story goes that the castle of Snow White was inspired by this one, and the whole city is very pretty. I know her professionally from Bosch. Still in Lohr Main, we are alternating between scorching sun and rain like now. So we are waiting here just for these clouds to go by. Do maybe 30k and then we stop for lunch. Crossing the city of Gmunden, which I feel I've been through, I don't know, 10 of cities are called Gmunden in the different countries. I cross it, and my daughter still wants to continue a little bit before stopping for lunch, so I think we're gonna go all the way to Karlstad. Here we are in Karlstad. Fortunately we arrived and it started raining a bit, a drizzle, not too much. We're gonna have lunch here in this restaurant Al Bacaro, which should be typical from Venice, I thought, but the accent I think is from Marche. Turns out that they are actually from Venice. I did not recognize the accent at the beginning, but then it was quite obvious. Karlstad is another of these very pretty city, perfectly preserved. Now getting to Würzburg, there is this beautiful wine region. I don't think the image really gives justice, but it's really beautiful actually, on the banks of the river Main. Crossing out the bridge that gets into Würzburg. It's a little bit like Ponte Carlo, the Charles Bridge in Prague for some reason. Funny case, back there is a violinist, I don't know if you see it, and my daughter tells me it's the same as yesterday. And in fact it's the same violinist that was yesterday in Miltenberg. Here is one of the central squares in Würzburg where there is the cathedral. Here we are inside the Residenza in Würzburg, World Heritage Site. Now because of this ceiling I think that there is another one from Tiepolo. I don't remember, I was here a few years ago. This is the famous masterpiece of the Residenza. I think it's one of the largest ceiling paintings in the world. I go by memory. We were here 4 years ago. At that time I read it, and I was here the first time summer 21, so 25 years ago. Unbelievable residence. This is one of the highest expression of Baroque in Europe. And to continue this Baroque overdose, this is the court church. Absolutely incredible. Leaving the residence, we didn't manage to go to the garden because inside they said it was open, but then at the entrance they said that there was an exhibition or something. So now we head out of Würzburg. There is one thing that I would like to see before we head still about 1 hour south. Here in Würzburg there is another Baroque masterpiece, which is the Way of the Cross up to a church, which I don't know if it is open or not, but there are the 12 stations. And the exterior of this church, Kapelle is the name, is absolutely wonderful, and I've seen pictures of the interior. It's also astonishing, like the other Baroque churches here in town, but it's closed. I think it also closed at 6 p.m. Now the last stretch of the day from Würzburg to a village about 25 kilometers south. There are some absolutely beautiful vineyards along the stretch. It should take about 1 hour to get there. Getting into Oxford, the village where we have the hotel. Here in the center of Oxford, again an extremely pretty village. It's really dotted. It seems that they can keep all of them very well preserved. Here we are at the hotel, last stop for the day. Hotel Polisinos. I have a swimming pool. Let's see if it's still open at this time. Woke up with the idea to continue on the Main River to Bamberg and then in the Fränkische Schweiz, but then noticed that it was going to be complicated to come back to Munich by train. So I am crossing over to the Romantische Straße and I am finding plenty of wild cherries like these ones. My little one is eating, hopefully back there. Yes, she is, listening to her story. Passing through a rural, uneventful Germany. Here is the village of Abt, which is a nice fortified center. And now I go down the river, which is the proper Romantische Straße. Here in the middle of nowhere, we got to a field of poppies. It's a sort of poppies, apparently from Bayern. And they look really photogenic with this kind of bulbs when they are closed. Now landed on the Romantische Straße, the Romantic road, the famous one. We are along the river Tauber. This is Kreilingen. Kreilingen is pretty unspectacular as a village. There's this beautiful garden with lots of flowers. We got to our lunch break in this kind of beer garden along the river Tauber, and we have been here when my two daughters were 0 and 3 years old, and we did a cycling tour at that time with tandem and trailer. We are now in Rothenburg or der Taube, the most famous city probably on the Romantische Straße. And here is the center of Rothenburg. And it is much more touristy than other places, despite being very pretty, but not prettier than other villages around Germany. And here behind me, probably the most famous view of all of Germany, or one of the most famous views of all of Germany, this corner of Rothenburg ob der Taube. And despite how touristy the place is, there are some parts of town that are completely desert, not a single person around, like this square. Leaving now Rothenburg. I'm not sure how far we go tonight. I wanted to get to Dinkelsbühl, but it is 45 kilometers, a bit uphill. It's 5 p.m. Not sure if we get there or to Feuerwangen. Totally uneventful crossing between Rothenburg and Dinkelsbühl. So yeah, I drove straight. It's 55k, 7:15, and I'm almost there at the city. I sit just in front of me. We got the best hotel in town. Curious to see if it's worth it. Got to the hotel Meiser in the very center of the city. It looks absolutely beautiful. There are 50 kilometers of nothingness between Rothenburg and here. Here we are in the center of Dinkelsbühl, and again a picture perfect small town. We started the day with a walk through Dinkelsbühl, which is still desert. It's 8:30. Here's the most famous view of Dinkelsbühl from across the pond, which is at the entrance of the city, the north entrance. We leave now Dinkelsbühl and we go direction south. I think for 30 kilometers there is absolutely nothing until the next stop, which is Nördlingen. Just like the previous stretch, also this part between Dinkelsbühl and Nördlingen, there is absolutely nothing to see, not a single highlight. There was yet now for the last 25 kilometers absolutely nothing. We was just in the middle of the fields, and all of a sudden comes again in the middle of the fields and an unpaved road, this Klostermühle, which is a church that looks absolutely incredibly beautiful. About half an hour and then we are in Nördlingen. Choices between a Japanese restaurant and an Indian restaurant. We got now to Nördlingen for our lunch and midday break. We'll go for the Indian food. The Indian restaurant turned out to be the best place where we ate this weekend in a very underwhelming culinary weekend. Now we walk through the city of Nördlingen. Leaving Nördlingen toward Hamburg, where it is one of the last stops, or maybe the last stop for the weekend. A fun fact I learned in the hotels, but there are always some depliants, is that we are in the middle of a huge crater created by the meteor that hit the Earth millions of years ago. It's not easy to see. Those small hills are all the edges of the crater. Getting to Hamburg, the last stop for the weekend. There is a nice castle, but I think it's better seen from the outside than from the inside. And this is the pretty center of Harburg, where there is the castle up there. Not sure if we do the castle, but there are a couple of churches that looks very nice from the pictures. Exactly today there is a medieval fest in the castle, and there is €12 just to walk by, and we start with my daughter to go up. And there is some weird thing which is called a fairy tale road to go up. It is pretty sad that there are some puppets and they are not very nice. It's kind of run down. And here we got to the part with the stands just outside the castle. I think that they are also inside the castle. We are inside the castle. The whole fair here is pretty trashy for me, but the castle itself is nice and everybody has its own taste, dressing up in medieval clothes, going around with swords. Probably people think I'm equally weird by cycling around with kids, so everybody's on all this. Here's the viewing platform of the castle with Herberg here below me, the village. I will go down, take the bicycle and to Donauwörth for the train. Getting closer to the final destination of this trip, I see Donauwörth in front of me. And here it is, Donauwörth is the old town, the center of the city. And we have about 30 minutes to ride around a little bit and see what's going on. And then it's time for the train. This is the Church of the Holy Cross in Donauwörth. It's again a masterpiece of Baroque art. In the center of Donauwörth there is an island with shops, cafes and houses, and I'm right in there. I need to cross it to go to the side of the station, so I get to see also this part of the town, which is the most charming one that I've seen. So here we are at the station of Donauwörth. The trip is over. Today we did about 73k. We did every other day around 100k. The trip overall is average, I would say. I had an absolutely awesome time with my daughter, but that's independently of the trip itself. The highlights were these absolutely magnificent villages all along the route. Really picture perfect. They look like straight from the fairy tales. The low lights are the long stretches, especially on the Romantik road of nothing. There were 30-40 kilometers of rolling hills. I like to cycle. I enjoy my audiobooks, but otherwise for somebody who is mainly focused on highlights, those stretches, they don't really have much to offer. The food was also not the highlight, and the hotels were okay, but they were a bit overpriced and overrated. Also very nice was to ride along the river, especially the Main river. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.